Hello, so in the next few videos we're going to start talking about computer programming, the basics of computer programming, and we are going to be using the program R in order to do that. Now, if you've never had any experience of computer programming before, I appreciate it can seem really daunting. I think we've all got this image of coding and computer programming as somebody sitting in a darkened room surrounded by massive computer screens and just sort of tapping away on the keyboard. Right now, this jargon really, which is just symbols, it doesn't seem to make any sense. But the reason why I think computer programming is really important in maths is because inevitably there comes a point in maths whereby something is just physically too big or impractical to try and do it by hand. I always say to people when I'm teaching maths, don't be a machine. We're not a machine, we're humans. It means we have the luxury of actually being able to think. So when you're learning maths, don't just learn it as just a series of methods, a series of algorithms, formulas that you just have to apply in a certain order in order to get to a right answer. No, that's a computer's way of learning maths. We're humans. We can actually afford to spend time understanding what's going on, and then we can employ computers to help us do that task. I mean, you've been using a computer for a long time in the form of a calculator, and you understand the importance of a calculator in maths. A computer programming language is exactly the same kind of idea. It's just on a much bigger scale. So, okay, let's actually try and work out how we're going to download R first of all, and then we're going to talk about the two different types of software that you can use. So, first of all, you need to download the R console. So I've just done a search in Google, you can see I've just typed in R, and the first one that comes up, the Comprehensive R Archive, CRAN R project, is the one which you're going to click on. You're then going to download R for your relevant machine, so download R for Windows, and then install R for the first time. Click that, and it'll come up with a sort of download window, and then you just sort of go from there and follow the instructions through. The software which I use, however, isn't this. This is kind of the basic R program. I use something called R Studio. So if I go back to Google, and if I just type in R Studio, you open that up. Okay, and then you follow the download links for that as well. So you now need to download the actual R program, and then you download the R Studio, and then that will do. So download R Studio, and then it'll come up and it will download it for you. So I use either the R Desktop open source license or the R Studio Server open source license. The difference being they're both free. The difference being this one doesn't access the internet, okay, so you actually have to set up any links which you want to make to the internet. To be honest with you, most of the time you don't even need to use the internet, so I would just go with this one. If you did want to sort of go for this one, there's no need, but this is the one which I download. So this one here, so you scroll right down to the bottom, first column, and you just click download, and there you go. So I've got opened up here our console, which is the first one that we downloaded, and I don't actually use this software. I mean, this is the R package. This is the software which you're going to use. But I actually use the R Studio which I downloaded. So I've got R Studio open here. This is the version which I use. Now the thing is, the difference between this, which is R Console, and R Studio, they are exactly the same program. Okay. It's a bit like, the R console is a bit like driving a car without any bodywork, without any of the interior. You've just simply got the chassis, the wheels, the engine, and the steering wheel. Okay, so it's kind of like the stripped back version of R. And it works in exactly the same way. Whereas the R Studio is a bit like a skin for R console. In fact, it is literally a skin for R console. It's a bit like driving the car with all the bodywork and all of the interior. It's literally coding in comfort, okay? And it's just a much more user-friendly environment to write in. Like I say, it's entirely up to you which one you use, but I tend to use R Studio. Now, the advantage of R Studio is that it does things like automatically indents your lines, it color codes any functions or anything that you're using. It also keeps a list over here of all of your all of the things which you've saved and which you've got running in the background, and you've also saved onto plots and things like that. So I'll prefer using R Studio. So first of all, let's see what we've got. So we've got over here the console, which is basically the console is anytime you want R to do something, you'll type it in here, which is the command line. So for example, I just want to type 3 + 2 hit enter, and then that'll tell me that it's 5, for example. Over here, this will have all my data sets. So for example, I say A takes the value of 3, okay, and then it will store A over here. So it tells me whatever labels I've got running, and we'll talk about this in the next video, it will store it over here. And for example, I might want to plot something, and then it will plot this window down here. So, I mean, we'll get used to this, but I will always use RStudio. If you want to use the basics, I mean, for example, if I just do exactly the same thing over here in our console, 3 plus 2, same thing, A takes the value of 3. Okay, it's exactly the same thing, print A, for example. It will do exactly the same thing as what I've just done in RStudio. I just prefer RStudio. It's a little bit nicer to use. Coding in comfort.